Okay, I'm cutting me some spacers today. And I just love using my lathe, and I use it to mostly make tools and stuff. I have made some T-bolts and stuff, but anyway, I'm putting on the side chrome here. And these have to go on basically as the wiring goes in, or you can't get some of the wiring, can't get to it because the wires go in front of it. But this has a shoulder on it that goes through a hole in the body. Then the spacer, the original ones were flared out and they were aluminum and went up and went against, if you could picture the metal of the car being in here. And then you get a washer, then you get a nut. But anyway, these spacers here, they're aluminum, they get all crudded up, they got it flared in on them. So I'm just making these spacers, nobody will ever see them on my lathe. This is cool, so I thought I'd get a video of this. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut that. I just love being able to cut metal like this. I'm going to make 4 of these middle ones in the door pillars. They don't get them. I'm going to go a little slower here because it makes a ridge on the back that it'll stick to one end or the other. Well, it's stuck to that. So there you can see that. I'll take that one off there. Let me shut that off. I don't know if that's going to be real hot or not, but anyway, you can take a pair of pliers and you can kind of bend at that. In a couple of places, that shoulder, that thing's damn hot. But that shoulder usually comes right off of there. There we go, shoulder off, nice spacer. Ready to go on there. Well, that's my 3rd one. I got to cut a 4th one now. So, isn't that cool? Yeah, I got my spacers cut there. So, the next step is I get my nut and I put it in my long socket because you want to be able to grab it with a pair of needle nose if the tape doesn't break loose. And then basically, I'm going to get a piece of tape started. About like that. I want it to hold them both. The washer, which goes there, and the spacer, which goes there. So, got my tape around there to hold them. Now I'm going to make sure I've got that centered. I'm going to go ahead and stick that in there. And yeah, that's going to go right in that nut. Okay. And so now we're going to poke that through the hole. And we're going to have this on the outside, and we're going to get it in there and start screwing it till it catches on there. Okay, this is where you have the holes here. I think you can see the holes. The piece here that you're going to put in is a tab on the back there, and so you put that, present that in there. I want to be careful I don't scratch the paint as I do that. Then I'm going to go take my tool, and the hole I was going to show you is right there. You can see the end right there of the bolt I shoved through. And now I'm going to get this and present that in there and find it and get it started. Okay, I finished tightening that up, and what I'm going to do is I want to try to get it out of there. Okay, I got the tape out of there, you can see. Sometimes the tape stays in there, and I go in with my needle nose and get it. But anyway, that's the back one on the left side. I put this one in. This one does not take a spacer like the other ones for whatever reason. The front one here will take a spacer, and it swoops the other way. That one's got the swoop at the bottom. This has got the swoop at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of those put in now that I've got all my spacers cut. Okay, one of the first things I did is I got a bunch of these taps. And you can see there's hundreds of holes there in the dash that have paint and old crap painted over in them. So I went ahead and did that. Put the fuse box on for the electric windows. It's got three 2BA screws that hold it on. So I went ahead and put that on, and I'm going to put some other stuff on here too. Oh yeah. This thing, even though this is the right color, this thing is not. I'm going to paint it. But these 4 bolts have to go in first from the inside, because after you put the sound deadening panel in, you won't be able to get those in. So I'm going to point out the things you got to do first, or you're going to be sad you put those other things in and had to take it all out to get them in. Okay, before I put the heat shield in, which you can't get to anything, I put everything, I populated the dash with stuff here, and I was just going to review it. There's a couple of clamps here, going across. You can see there's one up here. This actually is a clamp too to hold down your wiring harnesses. This has to go in because these bolts get tightened from behind, so you got to make sure you have that in. We've talked about the windshield wiper equipment and the cleaner. There's a fuse, or not a fuse, or what am I thinking about? That's a capacitor to filter out the noise from the AM radio they've got. You've got a holder for the speedometer cable. This actually gets up here, and that gets clamped up there. That all comes to, there's another relay. You got a hole here for the wiring harness to go through to the dash. You got your thermal units here for your starter, your choke. You've got a kick down. These are both on both sides here. Those are basically resistors, old-fashioned resistors to kick down fans and such. Brought the wiring harness through here. Got the horn fuse holder, and I use that for an accessory. There's 2 fuses in there, and there is a clamp on this side. Now the other thing, I want to go down here below, and I put in the boot that the accelerator pedal goes through. I also put on the linkage down here. There's 4 bolts there, one there, that come in from the other side. I think they're a 2BA bolt. But these bolts have to go through that hold this linkage across for the accelerator. So I've got all of that on, and the bracket here has to go on because those bolts you come through from the other side. So anyway, that's everything you have to put on before you put that heat shield in. Oh. Okay, I started doing a little wiring. I'm running all the wires that go to the top and the bottom. I ran all of them out of this wiring harness that comes out of here. got a couple more to go to the fuse block, but I'm gonna go ahead, and I'm not gonna bore you with wiring after wiring after wiring. But boy, the Rolls-Royce Owner Club gave us these vinyl fabric, printed on. It's a great, it's a big heavy vinyl deal or whatever, but you need the schematic and just follow through on the wires, and so far everything, I don't have any extra wires, but I got quite a few to go, Okay, I got my wiring in here. I'm gonna step in front of the camera. Got all my wiring in here, and I kind of left them loose until I worked them all the extra behind there, but I think that looks a lot better. I'm going to shove those up in there when I tighten this down, but I've got the 3 screws started, and I would add that I added an extra wire here that's not shown on the actual connection diagram. I connected it to the accessory that gets all the 5 wires or whatever. Or not the accessory, I did it to the cigarette lighter. Because I figure I don't use cigarette lighters except for charging phones and stuff. So I hooked the wire that's not shown on the schematic once again. But it's going to go across here, underneath here, underneath here, underneath here, and then I'll come up into here, and it's the power. So if you got electric windows, you're going to have an extra wire, and that gets a little heavy sheeting around it. The other thing is, I don't have this tightened down yet. It's still loose. So I didn't want this to get in my way when I was working on it. But I'm going to put that in there like so before I tighten it down so that I can shut my lid and it'll be held down, because otherwise you can't get it in there. See, I've continued to do the wiring here. I'm working on the regulator connector group, and they all go under the regulator plate here, so that plate will go over here. But right now I had the wrong fitting, so I do make mistakes. I had a bullet on here. I need that, so I'm going to let my soldering iron heat up, and I'm going to show you how I do this. Now, they get these rubber skirts on them here. So you throw that rubber skirt up the wire a ways while you solder it, and then you can slip it back down over. But if you forget to put that on, you're going to have to take the connector off to get it on there. So make sure you get it on there. I solder all these joints. I think that's the best joints. I got a debate with Jim Connolly. He thinks a crimped one's better, but I solder all of my joints. Heat them up a little bit. Get a little solder on them. It's wiggling on me. And there, soldered nicely. And then I'll pull that cap back over the end. And what happens is you take this little connector piece, put it in one, and I don't know why they used all this type of connector, but I guess they liked them. And really cool down now. You slide that rubber piece back on there like that. And these rubber pieces kind of squoogey together at the end of them there. If you press them together and kind of wiggle, and you got to make sure they go all the way in, but the two ends kind of overlap each other. And once again, that's all going to go up in there. underneath that regulator body. It's amazing how many wires have to go up underneath there. But they do. The wiring here, I'm getting farther along. I've got my big fat-headed screws there that hold this on, so I put that in. And I got my regulator hooked up, which comes up here and fits in there. But before I did that, this is a 1/4" fine thread screw, big head, big thick head. And it gets all kinds of grounds on it. I actually, just to be authentic, put these back in, these capacitors. That's connected over here to your line going into your dash, your main power line. But anyway, those I test and they're still good. They probably got PCBs in them. But then a ground strap, if you can see it under there, it goes under there. I'll show you again, but it gets screwed in there with a bolt. And then this goes down to the chassis, the frame. And from there, there's a jumper over to the engine where the starter is. It's a flexible braid. And on these, they've actually made a bigger braid for that jumper because it's going from where the positive comes in and the starter's located there. So it's on that case right there. So anyway, we've got that going and pretty well got the wiring done. Just you're probably getting tired of wiring, fast forward, but pointing out some things you need to know. Just a little highlight here. When you put this plate on, you can't have this relay connected. That relay goes right there and you can't get to the screws and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and remount that. I'm going to remount that, and I can either mount there or there, so I think I'm going to mount that there when it's out of the way. My Silver Cloud 2 has 2 relays over there. I don't remember what the second one's for, but it does have a second relay. Okay, you'll see I continue to wire everything. These harnesses hanging down. Of course, I had 2 extra wires out of the dash. They're for air conditioning. I provided those in the harness. But I've got everything wired up. I ran the last harness, which goes in the car, and that goes to there. You know, this is weird. These wires go on top of the box, and there's a slot here. This was an after idea. I guess they had to keep up with the Americans. But anyway, I'm going to put that lid on there. On the inside, I'll show you how they clip that wire, but I went ahead and got my windshield wiper motor on, and haven't got the pipe hooked up to it or hooked up on the inside. But basically, I've got all the wiring done here on the front. I got to run some things into, you know, the switch at the base of the, it's all inside work, but anyway, that's the light, bright, dim switch, those wires that hang down there, the blue and red ones. Okay, I'm working on the air vent on the right side of a left side of a right-hand drive car. We have the plates. I got this from Albers. It's a replacement. They actually had a one in good condition from Bentley Zionsville, but we got the screws, the little spacers, the other side, and then we'll go ahead and put it in here. You'll note on this, I actually put a piece of copper in here, then I built this up and welded and repaired it. It was quite bad when I started out, and the side over here, I'm going to actually have to drill a hole in here. But anyway, we'll get all this started, and I'll get the screw started, and then we'll talk about putting it in the unit itself. Okay, I've got the screws in there, and I've got the nuts on there, and they're what I call a half nut. and they're, I believe, a 3BA, and I've got the washer on there and little spacers in, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten that up till it's on that spacer. You'll note that the heads of the screws, at least when it came off, they were on this side. And anyway, we'll get the rod ready to go in there and get it ready to mount on the... Stuck the grill here on the inside. It gets covered up, these screws do, with carpeting when you put it in. But I put a couple of screws in there. Now I'm going to go to the other side. Of course, we're working on the vent, the fresh air vent. And it comes out the fender here. And you can see the grill and you can see the screws sticking out here. And I'm going to zoom over here. And I kind of went through this. This has got new foam in it here. And it opens up and closes. There's a cable that goes on it. We'll show you that in a second. There's a big gasket that goes on here. And it goes on the outside. And you can see these are long, wood-threaded type screws with a skinny screwdriver flat head on them. And this is still in the bag, but this cable runs across to the right side driver, and that cable gets connected up under the dash, where when you pull it, it simply pulls on this flap, and this thing here opens up or it closes. So there you go. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do when I'm putting this vent back in is I'm going to get a little bit of lubrication here, and I'm going to take, and right here this slot, this pulls in and out, but this gets a little stiff sometimes, so I'm just going to put a couple of drops of oil in there and try not to make too much of a mess with it, because that'll be in the dash, but you can see that already goes in and out a lot easier. And then I'm going to take a little oil and I'm going to put it on a rag, actually paper towel, be kind of generous with it. I'm going to run it up this wire like so, trying to stay in the camera. And then I'm going to take the got to make sure you get the right end and the right end. The screw end goes to the end that the knob's going to be on. You know, I'm going to take them just for the hell of it. I'm going to put a few drops of oil down the old pipe. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to run this back in there like so. Oh, she's going in nicely. I'm trying not to scratch my wood. Now this end here screws in, so you gotta have it where you can twist it a little bit and screw it in. There's a little adjustment on it, but I don't know that it makes a big difference. I kind of adjusted at the other end. I'm going to clean my hands up and then we'll go ahead and put that cable onto that vent. Okay, the end of the cable now goes through this, and it's got a little, it takes a really small Allen wrench there to tighten that lock screw. But anyway, this is going to go through here. And it's going to go through, oops, I may have a hard time keeping all of this in the picture, but it goes through like so. Now that's going to go through, there's a lock screw on both sides of this, and there's a hole in the middle, so it goes through the hole that's provided in the vent, and you got to find the hole. There's the hole, and I may have those a little too tight. Just the hole eludes me. it should go right through there. We have to get something to push it with. Yeah, I might have to get pair of pliers or something to push that in with. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do here, after I got that all in, I put this cable in, and there's a little place here so you can lock that down with that small Allen wrench in place. And I'm kind of pre-adjusting this because it's easier when you get in the car. You want this to have a good shutting action, and it's going to let off a little bit. I'm going to start those as far as I go with my fingers. And then I'm going to tighten one of them down pretty good. Like that. Oh, you have to have the knob on the other end, which I don't have in yet. Okay. That end seems to be boogered up a little bit, so I'm going to work on it a little bit more, but I got it tightened down. You'll see it's got a nice firm seal there. And from there we'll talk about the other end. Seems like a Rolls-Royce used many parts, but I'm going to show you the end of this. This gets a plate that's nice and curvy and meets up with the nice chrome-plated piece on the end. There's a pin in here to meet up with the slot in this rod. You can see the slot there. And that has to be held in with this clip. And if you see the clip, it's got an open end there, but you want the round part. You want the round part where it holds that, and there's a square part. It's gonna kind of go out, and there she went on. So that goes on, and then that's gonna get tightened up there, but there's a big washer, but there's a round plate on the back to cover up that clip. So you got two plates, one front and back, and a nut. And then here you have a little bit of adjustment, but I went ahead and snugged that up. I'm going to tighten all these when I get it in the car. But I'm going to feed that on in through there. And before I do that, I am going to put the knob on it. Here's the knob. And on the end of my pin there, there's a set pin that goes in there and holds it on, and it screws into the far side of it. But anyway, I'm not going to put you through the agony of that, but that goes on the end of that nice pretty chrome knob. And there are clips that go on it, and I'm not going to put these on until I feed the cable through the car, since there's less complication. But these cable clips will go up into the dash and hold the cable as it runs across the under dash of the car. Okay, just a couple things to point out here. I went ahead and put this rubber gasket on here. This thing is keyed with a bolt, so it only goes on one way. And it'll have these long, flat-headed, straight bit screwdriver. They're a wood screw. I think I already mentioned that. But anyway, I put that on because it's tough to get on after you feed the cable through the housing, which I'm going to do next. The other thing I would mention is I laid this like that vent's going to go out this way. So I laid that this way. And then with this cable, these are going to be going up like that. And basically, I made sure that the slot's are also going to be going up. But anyway, I made sure that the Allen wrench, you can see it maybe on the bottom there, but it's on the bottom because there's no hole on the top because they made it look really nice. So anyway, you want to get that oriented so you don't have the screw showing on top. Rolls-Royce would have never put them together like that. Okay, I went ahead and tightened the screws on the vent. And one thing I would note here is, I got that on the inside. When you come up under here, right up under here, there is enough room to get that in through there with those pieces, all the pieces that I showed you on there. But you really got to kind of shove it through there, and this plastic is real flexible back here, so you can bend it back a little bit. So anyway, that's how you get it across to the other side.